it on mine that I use for attendance. Make sure you guys find your new seat on the board, please. New seats on the smart board up there. Make sure you get in the right place, please. Okay, please quickly sit down. So I can see Alright, so we have two things to do today. We need to take our 4.6 quiz, and then we need to do the second half of the test review. So before we start the 4.6 quiz, if you forgot or were unable to turn in number 32 in the Google Classroom, that was the big chart, number 32 in your binder. I need that in the box up here. And if you want full points on that, you need to get that turned in before we get started. Okay, and then finally I need your phones at the side of the room. And once you do that, I'll get you the quiz and let you start. Our quiz is no calculator.
This is the chart you're talking about, right? Correct?
What?
This is the chart you're talking about?
Yes. But you need to start numbering your time.
Alright. I will do that.
Again, this is no calculator.
Just 32?
I know I skipped a few people who still had stuff out on your desk, so I'm going to get it back to you. Anybody else on that? Okay, so I don't think you should need half of class for this, but you could take up to half of class. The 4 graphs on the front page are 2 points each. And those need to be done by hand. We did talk about a few ways that you could try to check some of that work, so if you remember that, then of course you should do it before you turn it in. The back page has some of the characteristics we put in the 4.6 notes. Not all of them, but some of them. Those are half a point each. And just quickly, I want to verbalize on the back page that is matching. So I would prefer you just use the letters A through L instead of trying to write out the full answer. I think that's easier on you and easier on me, but I can still grade it the other way, but try to just use the letters on the back, please. still give you another 30 minutes, so still plenty of time. You certainly don't need to feel rushed here. Don't forget to pick your phones back up. And if you gave me a hard copy of your homework, it'll be in that white box by the phones if you want it back today. But then find something quiet to work on so that everyone has time. If you don't have that small test review finished, you could work on that while you wait. You'll need to find your new seat number up there. And you missed the quiz. That's what they're finishing up right now. Would you like to do that out in the hallway right now, or?
Sure.
Okay. Because they'll be finished up before. This is no calculator.
Got it.
basket. Thank you. Jonathan, do you have the test review done?
Yes. Well, actually, nearly.
And you should be doing that while you wait.
Excuse me?
I said maybe that would be a good use of your time while you wait.
Good idea. Can I have the test review? I apologize for not getting it earlier.
Okay. What do you need?
34, the test review. Is it, oh, up there.
That basket that says pre-cal handouts. There should be a tab that says 34. Hello? Hi. He just went to the restroom. Please to second floor. I sure will. Uh-huh. Bye. Jonathan, you'll need to find something else to do
Sure.
besides talking to each other. It's not a good start for your new seat.
Yes, sir.
I think everybody's finished with the quiz, but I would like to finish grading these quizzes you just took so I can give them back to you. So if you guys give me a few minutes to work on that. As I get these graded, I'm trying to pass back your 4-5 and your 4-6 quiz. So when you get yours back, start looking it over and start identifying which questions you're going to want to ask about, because that will be here in just a few moments. But also, if you don't have the test review finished, that is something that you need to do between now and next class, because next class is our test. So if you don't have that finished and you don't know what else to do, consider that for a few minutes. I should need about 5 more minutes, I think. when you left, they called for you to go to the second floor, phase 2 office. But they didn't say anything about taking your stuff, so I don't know. Okay. Okay, I'm almost there. Give me just one more minute. Thank you for waiting patiently.
I was wondering if you have any glue sticks.
Do you see that blue thing back there against the window?
Yes.
I think one of those might have glue sticks at the bottom,
Okay.
but they're going to be pretty old, so they may not be good anymore. But you're welcome to use whatever's there. Okay, that was almost perfect with half the class here. So at this point, you should have back all 3 of your major quizzes from this unit. That would be 4.4, which I gave to you last class. 4.5, where we graphed the sine and cosine graphs, and I just passed that back to you today. And then your 4.6 that you just took today that I also passed back to you. So with our 4.4 to 4.6 test next class, it is very similar in structure to our first test. So for our first test, I told you that your best resource was your quizzes. So that's still true for your second test. Look back at your 4.4 quiz, your 4.5, and your 4.6 quiz. Make sure that you still remember how to do the questions you got right. And make sure that you know how to do the ones that you missed. And I will give you a chance to ask questions here in just a minute. Bless you. And then your second best resource would be the test review. So that will be the one last homework grade that I'll give to you in this unit. So that is opened up in Google Classroom already. So if you have it finished, you might as well turn it into Google Classroom. Otherwise, please do that between now and next Tuesday, which is when your test is. And I want to remind you about late work policy. So I do take late work, but it has to be fully complete and it has to be turned in before the unit assessment. And since our unit assessment is on Tuesday, next class, if there's anything you didn't do the first time and you currently have a 0 in grade book, you can go and finish it to get half of the points back. And if there is anything you got half credit on because it wasn't complete, you can finish it and get half of the points that you missed back. So, but I do not accept that after we start the test. So if that applies to you, you need to add it to your homework of things to do. Okay, any questions about the test next class, late work, or I don't know, anything besides specific math questions? Our test will be 100 points, which is the same size as your first test. So obviously you guys always want to do the best you can on the quizzes, and not that they're not worth anything, but your 4-4 quiz was like 21 points or something. Your 4-5 quiz was 25 points. Your 4-6 quiz was 23 points. So those certainly add up. But compared to 100 points, that's in the major category of your grade versus the quiz points that go in the minor category of your grade. The test is like your second chance at retaking the assessment. So you guys know we don't do retakes or anything, but we see that kind of as a retake. Okay, then how I can help is I can go over any questions you guys need to from your 4.5 quiz, and then we'll do the same thing with 4.6. And then if you have any questions from your test review that you need help with, I can answer those as well. 4.4 questions you should have asked last time, because we did half of your test review last time. So now that you've had your 4.5 quiz back for a minute, I would say probably just based on scores, the 4.5 section is probably harder than the 4.4 or the 4.6. Of course, that varies for everybody. But you will also need to tell me which form of the quiz you have. So section 4.5, we had form E, F, and G. So there's 3 different forms. So is there anything from this section, Jack?
Form E, number 1, finding the period.
Okay, well before I even look at it, if you need to calculate the period of a sine or cosine graph, it's going to be 2 pi divided by b, and your b looks to be 2/3. Is that correct? I've got it, huh?
No, it's 3/4.
Okay. I've got an old copy of quizzes, so some of this stuff has changed. So if your b is 3/4, then you have 2 pi divided by 3/4. So this is kind of a weird way to write it, but if you write it this way instead, remember a fraction bar just means division. So these are saying the same thing, but typically if you'll write it this way, you are more likely to do the keep, change, flip part, and you end up with 8 pi on top and 3 on bottom. So that should have been your period, 8 pi thirds. Now, just to make sure that you don't get that mixed up with 4.6. 4.6, we will ask you the period of tangent, cotangent, secant, and cosecant, but no transformations. So there's no formula that goes along with those. But sine and cosine, we can change the period by putting a b value. Okay, was there any other part of this one? No? Okay, good.
Can you do number 4 on form F?
Number 4, form F. Yeah, let's make sure mine's the same as yours though. Does yours look like this? So far, at least.
Mhm.
Here's what this is. Actually, you know what? After I did all this, is that what yours looks like? These are kind of hard if you are working with any type of estimation. So let me actually just try to put the actual quiz on my thing, because then the graph will look better. Those of you that took the PSAT yesterday, how did it go?
It was so light.
It wasn't bad, actually.
It was so easy.
I've always heard most students seem to prefer the SAT math over the ACT math.
Oh yeah, big time.
Something about it just seems easier.
I
It
think
is.
it's easy, but it's less fun. I think the worst it was geometry. Like finding the area of a triangle.
There was like the hardest one I thought.
I didn't even get this one.
It was this function, and you had to find the minimum value of it. But you do plug in the go to the table, find the smallest one, and that's your answer.
Okay,
And I thought that was the hardest one.
that was the hardest one.
I thought it was, yeah.
I'm getting there. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, it's fine.
It just takes a minute
I know
to
I
find.
tanked the English section, but
Okay, is that better? Okay. So for this one, you were supposed to come up with an equation. So this is like one of the first things that we did, but when you did it in class, you had a calculator to kind of guess and check. On the quiz, you didn't, so you had to try to either mentally keep up with what was going on, or what I'm about to suggest here in a second. It does make a big difference on whether you pick sine or cosine, but before I ask you what you did, because I want to try to do it the same way you did, regardless if you pick sine or cosine, doesn't change the fact that the amplitude is half the distance between min and max. So A either has to be 2 or negative 2, whether you pick sine or cosine. The period of this graph, if I start measuring here, looks like I need to look at pi horizontal space to see one cycle. So if the period is 2 pi over b, and in this graph the period is pi, then b must be 2, and b goes next to x. How much you want to shift it right or left just depends on sine or cosine, and the fact that this goes up to 1 but down to negative 3 means that the whole thing has been shifted down 1. You're okay with that? So before you even start to think about sine or cosine, this one was 4 points, so you could have gotten 3 of the points right there. The last point's going to be a little bit harder. So did you go with sine or cosine on this?
Cosine.
So cosine. Now, to know, I don't think, now this one does have some sort of vertical shift. To know how much of a phase shift this is going to have, or sorry, horizontal shift, you kind of have to know what this looks like at this point. So what I tend to do is I'd say, okay, I know what cosine looks like. I'm pretty sure this is 2 or negative 2. We'll just assume it's positive 2 for a minute. So that's what 2 cosine x looks like. If I make b be 2, it's going to squeeze this into pi space. Okay, so now in purple, this is amplitude of 2 and a period of pi. If I shift the whole graph down 1, okay, so the equation we currently have down looks like this. And again, for me, that's way too much to visualize. That's why I have to graph what I think the answer is and then compare. And so then I can compare specific points. So I could say I could either move this point a little bit to the right or a bunch to the left. It doesn't really matter what you want to do. But if I want to go, I'm just going to go the smaller distance. If I want to go right, you need to subtract from x. You need to measure how much this is. So if this is pi, half of that would be pi over 2. So this is pi over 4. So I wanted to go right pi over 4. And the formula for phase shift is c over b. But b has already been predetermined to be 2. But if you set these equations equal to each other, you can solve by multiplying both sides by 2. So if you did cosine and you don't reflect it over the x-axis, the last piece would need to be right pi over 2, so that it goes right pi over 4. Is that okay?
Yep.
I think if you did sine, you maybe didn't have to do this phase shift, which would have been maybe a little bit easier. But the phase shift, I just graph the whole thing and then try to see how much the point needs to move and how far. So
How do you choose whether to pick cosine or sine? Or does it really matter?
both will always be correct, but one is sometimes easier than the other. Typically, I just think about the parent functions. Like sine. Sine, I know, goes through the origin like this. So if it's a question that goes, even though this isn't going through the origin, I can see that it looks like the whole graph's been shifted down. So if you imagine this shifted up, do you see how this looks like it kind of goes up through the origin like sine does?
Yeah.
That's probably why I would have picked sine. Whereas cosine is up here. So if you have a y-intercept, like a positive y-intercept or even a negative one, they might have just flipped it or something, then I tend to pick cosine. But either one can be correct, but one of them might be easier than the others. Okay, what you got?
I wrote that equation as my answer, and you marked me off on it.
Which form do you have?
Form F.
Okay, I'll have to look.
And I put sine. I put pi over 4 with sine. And you counted that one too.
Well, I didn't put pi over 4. This is pi over 2.
No, yeah, you said.
I put pi over 2, and then you marked it off and put 4.
Okay, I'll double check in a second.
Yeah, you said if you put sine, you can use pi over 4.
I think if it's sine, you may not need anything over here. I have to look at your specific question and on your form. I'll do that in a minute. But let me make sure I get these answered first. It could be if it's my mistake, I'll fix it, obviously. So, okay, others from 4 or 5. Again, you should expect this to be roughly about a third of your test. So, okay, Jonathan.
On the test, are you gonna have us
Probably.
do?
I'm not going to tell you what's.
Well, no. I was just asking, like, you know how some equations are on the review, it's sine 2x because it's bigger or smaller.
Okay.
You can have us do the same thing with like cosine, tangent,
No.
cosecant, or we're just gonna need to know how they're graphed.
In section 4 or 5, we graph sine and cosine graphs with all the transformation stuff.
So we're not gonna need to know transformations for like tangent, cosine. No, sorry, tangent, cotangent, cosecant, secant.
Correct. Those were in 4.6, and in 4.6, we just need you to know what those graph looks like and be able to state the characteristics that we talked about.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, then 4.6 is the one you guys took today, and again, that one, in theory, you could just memorize all of it. I don't know that that's the best strategy, but I guess it would work. So is there something from your 4.6 quiz you want me to remind you of how I would do it, or why the answer was one thing and not another? Anything I can help with on that? Okay, then what about the test review? Number 9. Okay, so number 9, this is a question from section 4.4. So since we've been doing graphing for like 2 weeks now, this stuff seems a little bit more foreign, but this is similar to what you guys did on the first test. So we've got a point on the terminal side of an angle, and that angle is in standard position. So standard position means you're starting at positive x-axis. Terminal side is the other part of your angle. So you should plot the point 3, -5. And you guys should look at your 4.4 quiz. Unfortunately, one of the most common mistakes that was this type of question on your 4.4 quiz is that you guys just don't plot the point correctly. Like you're plotting it in a different spot. But in section 4.4, we talked about reference triangles. So if you take this point on the terminal side of your angle and draw it to the x-axis, that creates your right triangle reference triangle. To get to this point, I had to go right 3 and down 5. One mistake that you would be easy to make is sometimes you guys might call this a 4 because there is a 3, 4, 5 triangle, but a 3, 4, 5 triangle, 5 has to be the hypotenuse because the hypotenuse has to be the biggest side. So this can't be 3, 4, 5 here. So you have to do Pythagorean theorem. And you get the square root of 34. 34 is like 2 times 17, so that doesn't break down anymore. And then the last part of this, before we can just use SOHCAHTOA, is you need to know that the angle we're looking from is this angle here by the origin. Then we just pair up our sides that we need to based on what SOHCAHTOA says. So sine says put opposite over hypotenuse. That one needs to be rationalized. Cosine says adjacent over hypotenuse. That one is rationalized. Tangent's the easier one, opposite over adjacent. You see, cosecant would be hypotenuse over opposite, and secant would be hypotenuse over adjacent. And the one thing that I really tried to push on you guys, even though this was not necessary for this question, if you consider the all students take calculus, this point is in quadrant 4. So the only answers that better be positive are cosine and his reciprocal. So cosine is positive, his reciprocal is positive, and the other 4 answers are supposed to be negative. So that's a good sign that they are. Okay, is that enough for 9? Number 6? Okay, number 6, find 2 solutions to this equation. Give your answer in radians and 1 trip around the circle from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so this is a backward unit circle question. Unit circle will usually tell you the angle and you go find the ratio. But this one's telling you the ratio and asking you to go find the angles. And it's telling you that there's 2 spots that this is true. But even if you know the unit circle, when you think about all these points, you really know sines and cosine values. You don't really memorize secant values. So the first step to this has to be take the reciprocal of both sides. The reciprocal of secant would be cosine. The reciprocal of negative square root of 2 would be negative 1 over square root of 2. And not that you guys care right now, but honestly in calculus we almost never rationalize. We just don't really care to. But in trig, this is a good example of why it's so important in trig. This still doesn't look familiar to me. But if I multiply the top by the square root of 2 and the bottom by the square root of 2, if I rationalize it, now it does. Cosine is negative square root of 2 over 2 in the middle of quadrants 2 and 3. This spot would be 3 pi over 4. That's one of the answers. And this spot is 5 pi over 4. Those are the places where cosine is negative square root of 2 over 2, which is the same as where secant is negative square root of 2, because that's the reciprocal. I will also just forewarn you, after we take this test on Tuesday, the next section we move on to is still 4.7. We're still going on in the order of the book. And in 4.7, I would say half of our questions start off this way. It'll say, find the angles that have this ratio of this on the unit circle. So this is going to be really important in section 4.7. So if you're rusty with the unit circle, you might need to review that again. Okay, anything more specific about number 6 for anybody while it's up? Okay, what else from test review? Okay, well, if you guys decide you do have more questions, you still have, let's see, you still got 20 minutes, so obviously I'd still be happy to help you. You just need to let me know what that is. I strongly suggest you guys put an alarm in your phone or write down somewhere that Tuesday, start of class, we have our test. Even if you don't need to study much, at least 5 or 10 minutes goes a long way. I don't want you to feel caught off guard coming into class on Tuesday, but that is our plan. Make sure you have your test review finished and turned in, and make sure that if there's any late work or any incomplete work from Unit 2 that you want more points on, that you get on finishing that up. I will not accept that after we start the test on Tuesday. Okay, that's all I've got. So let me know if y'all find any math stuff I can help with.